Bonjour tout le monde. Aujourd'hui, on va parler de la comparaison qui est bien sûr dans le dossier 7, la leçon 3. Euh, Peut-être que vous avez déjà vu la comparaison auparavant. It might be very well possible that you've seen this before. Um, Once you are into a 1 or 2 or 2, you'll have a lot more to work with. But for this particular lesson, we're only going to go over plus ou moins. So more or less than, right? If I were to say this in English. However, the way you use it differs based on whether or not you're using an adjective or a noun, right? Or whether or not you're comparing an adjective, I should say, or a noun. If you're just saying, like in general, you're not really comparing, you're just saying, for instance, women read more, right? You're not adding that then what you do is you start with the verb, right there, and then you add the comparison, right, component, plus or less. Les hommes courent moins, men, maybe in general or not, or depending on who you're talking about, run less. Okay? Pooja mange plus pendant la pandémie, right? Pooja eats more during the pandemic, right? Or am I comparing it to any other year? No, I'm just saying in general, Pooja ate more during the pandemic. Les gens sortent moins depuis 2020. So people went out less since 2020. Again, I'm not comparing it to anything. So if I were to compare it to a different group of people or a year, or you have point A and B that you're comparing, then you need to introduce the than component, and in French it's the que. So the way you do it is, of course, you start with whatever group that you want to compare, followed by your verb, followed by your plus or less, and then the then, and then the other group that you're comparing the first group to. So, les femmes lisent plus que les hommes. So women read more than men. Okay, so that's the way that you compare two different groups. Okay. Les hommes courent moins que les enfants. So men run less than kids. And again, these are not facts. I'm just using these as an example. Another one here, Pooja mange plus que Daniel pendant la pandémie. So Pooja eat more than Daniel during the pandemic. Okay, and again, this is for you to explain or to compare two different groups depending on what they're doing. And again, like I mentioned, in your case, you're just comparing with plus ou moins, so more or less. Now, if you want to compare adjective, right? If I wanted to say that I'm more happy than, or in English you would say, I am happier than person X, right? So happy is an adjective. So let's take a look at some example. Les enfants de 2020 sont moins attentifs que les enfants des années 80. So what are you comparing kids of 2022? Kids of the 80s. So here I'm saying the kids of 2020 are less attentive than the kids of the 80s, right? Again, what am I comparing? The fact that they are less attentive. Okay. Les enfants sont plus technophiles que les enfants, I should say les enfants de 2020 sont plus technophiles que les enfants des années 80. Again, here I'm saying that the kids from 2020 are more tech savvy, another technical term for you here, than the kids from 80s. Okay, what am I comparing? I'm comparing the fact that, or the adjective that they're more tech savvy. Remember, adjective are words, right, that describe your nouns. Vancouver est plus vert que Mumbai. All right, what am I comparing? The fact that Vancouver is more green, and remember we've seen that colors are adjective because to describe the place, right there, than Mumbai. And notice how I'm doing it. The comparison factor followed by your adjective followed by your que, which is your than in English. Sa mère est plus gentille que son père. Same ordeal. her or his mother is nicer than his or her father. Okay, and notice that as well, the adjective will follow the accord based on whatever you are describing. So gentil will follow mer, vers, Vancouver, right? Same thing here. Now it's a bit different when you're comparing nouns, right? So if I were to say I have more books than person X, what am I comparing? The fact that I have more books. What are books? Nouns. When you're comparing noun, you have to add a preposition de before the noun. Les Français achètent plus de livres dans les magasins que sur Internet. So French people buy more books in shops than on the internet. What am I comparing? Livre, more books, right? So the way you do it is you start your sentence, right? Your subject followed by your verbs followed by what you're comparing, the intensity that you're comparing, plus moins, followed by de right before the noun, and then the que. Right after, because remember it's the French people buy more books in shops than on the internet. Okay, so it's the same thing in English. So the than comes after your first object of comparison. Same thing here, les professeurs consultent plus de ressources en ligne que sur papier. So teachers consult more resources online than on paper, right? Remember here, the only difference in English is in French, you need the de when you're talking about a noun. Okay, notice that for adjective, I don't need anything. It's only when it comes to noun. Les jeunes en 2020 lisent moins de romans que les jeunes en 1980. If I just said les jeunes en 2020 lisent moins que les jeunes en 1980, that's perfectly fine, right? But here I want to make sure that I'm saying that they read less novels. Okay, so that's why I'm adding the de followed by your noun. J'ai plus d'idées que toi. Notice here, idée is a noun, and because it starts with a vowel, you need to drop the E and add the apostrophe. Okay? And this translates to, I have more ideas than you. Now, like I just mentioned here, if you don't have any second group to compare to, you can just say the young people read less novels. Can you say that? Perfectly well, right? You're just saying in general, young people read less novel. There's nothing to compare it to. Les cambrioleurs volent plus de bijoux. So thieves steal more jewelry. Okay? And again, I'm not saying that the average person, right? Or any other group, I'm just saying thieves in general. So let's take a look as to how you might see that on a final exam. Another thing I'd like to mention is you can see that in this form, or we can just simply ask you to add that to your production écrite. Alright, so let me find my pen. Complétez les phrases suivantes avec le comparatif approprié. Alright, so you need to make sense of the sentence and with your comparison. L'avion et la voiture. So we see here that we have rapide. So that's an adjective, right? It's describing avion. So I'd like to think that a plane is faster than a car, right? So am I going to be using plus or moins? Plus. Donc, l'avion est plus rapide que la voiture. Remember, when it comes to adjective, you start with your intensity followed by your adjective followed by que. So, the plane is more or is faster than the car. À la campagne, la pollution est present en ville. Okay, so I'd like to think again that in a rural area, pollution is less present than what you get in a town, right? Or in a city. La pollution est moins. Oops, I should have done the other way. All right. Okay. let's just do this instead. Moins présente, right? Because la pollution is feminine, que en ville. But notice here that en starts with a vowel, so don't forget the little modification that you need to do there. Les fruits hors saison, so off-season fruits, if you were to say that. Coûte, so cost, d'habitude. So obviously they will cost more because they're off-season. Plus cher que d'habitude. But notice here that because I'm talking about the fruits, I need to add my S since fruits are masculin pluriel. Les jeunes d'aujourd'hui jouent plus les jeunes des années 80. Jeux téléguidés, so like games, right? So like video games or anything surrounding that, right? I need to take this off because I already gave you part of the answer. So they obviously play more, but because this is a noun, right? Notice that this is not an adjective. Let's see the difference here. Joue plus. Remember, I need to add my de, right? Because it's a noun. Plus de jeux téléguidés than, right? Que les jeunes des années 80. Notice here as well, if I didn't have the kids from the 80s to compare it to, I can totally erase that, right? But because I'm saying specifically that they play more video games than the other group, I need to make sure that I include this. Les chiens de la ville ont un caractère. Okay, so again here, I have nothing to compare it to. So it's up to me if I want to say they have a meaner personality or a less of a mean personality, right? So I'm going to go with moins because I love dogs. So I'm going to go with sont moins mauvais, right? And again, I'm not using que because why am I using than, right? Because it needs to make sense. The que is only used when you're comparing it to another group. Alright, so hopefully that was helpful, and I'll see you at the next video. Merci!